Hello guys, welcome back, and today we are going to discuss one important hook which is useMemo. So React hooks makes our life easier in functional components because before that we are using like class based component and functional component does nothing, they don't have any life cycle. But after the React version of 16.8, the hooks gets introduced and these makes our life very much easier. So what does use memo hooks do and why it is important? This is one of the most asked interview question, is the difference between use memo and use callback hook. So today I'm going to discuss about use memo hook and what it does. So it memoizes the return value of an expensive calculation between the renders. So whenever we change some states, so rendering happens and the calculated value of, let's suppose, for high computations value gets memoized in this case. To understand it better, let's jump into the code and understand how the use memo hook makes our life easier. So this is one of the example where I will explain you line by line. This is a memo app just for use memo hook, and we are using a count set count use state here, and we are calling a calculate function. What it does, it just for better understanding, we are running it for around, let's suppose, 1 crore or something like that. This is a huge number, so it will update the state. It will take some time to update the state whenever the component re-renders, so it will take some time to update the state. For example, for now we will just comment this out so that we'll check how the state update happens. So this is the example. So let's suppose we click on the increment count and let's see how it works. So see, if I click, it simply updates. So it's very fast. You can see on every click the count value is getting changed. But let's suppose there is some functionality which we need and it requires little bit high computations. So what will happen on that case? So let's suppose we are calling this calculate function. What happens is whenever it gets re-rendered, whenever we click on this button, the memo app will re-render and this calculate function will be called again. Then we will click again, then it will called again and again. This will happen and it will take some time to calculate all the values. Now you can see the delay when I click on this increment count. Let's see. So I have clicked and now you can see the difference what happening is before and now. Let's click again. It is taking some time to update the state. So you can understand now, if we do something very highly calculative functionality we are using in React app, it hinders our performance. To optimize this, we need a hook which is lifesaver, which is known as useMemo. Okay, so we import useMemo hook. Now I will give you one simple example. Let's suppose what we do is we just call console.log here and check how many times it gets called. So this is get called whenever we render. So I will show you the demo. So let's refresh it. So initially it gets called, then if I click, that it gets again called, then again it is getting called. You can see on 3 it is getting called. So on every click it is getting called. So when we use useMemo, let's write useMemo. So this is the syntax where we need to pass a callback function which we have already given, and the dependency array. Okay, so we have to call this function inside the callback. Let's refresh and check. So it gets called once, but when I click 1, you can see there is no call happens again. So what happens, it gets memoized. So the value it's saved in cache. This value after calculation is cached. If we check here, let's do it console. So this is the calculated value. Now if I increment again, so I am getting the value, but I am not calling that function and again, and you can see the increment is faster now. So this is how useMemo impact the performance of React applications. Let's add some example where there is some dependency. On the basis of that dependency, calculate will be called. So for example, I am dependent count, set dependent count, its value is 10, and I'm changing this. So let's check out. So this is the dependent count on which this function depends. So I will pass the dependency as dependent count. So if I will not use, let's copy paste it and let's do the what we were doing earlier, just calculate. So if we are not using any useMemo in this case, so you can see whenever I call increment count, it gets called. If I call the other state, it again gets called. So on every state chain, this function is getting called. So this hinders the performance of an applications for large computations. So now what we will do, we will use the optimized way by using useMemo. Now it only triggers when the dependent count will change. Okay, so initially it's 10. So let's check and refresh. So initially it gets called, the value is calculated now. Now let's increment count. So it is not dependent on this, so we are getting only the cached value, not the function. It is not getting called again. So we are getting cached value here. But what happens if I click on the increment dependent count from 10 to 11? So it gets called because we are changing the state here, and this state triggers the function calls again because the state is getting changed here. So you can see this is getting changed and it is getting called. So in this way we save our highly computation, because we need to change on only increment dependent count but not on increment count. So in this way the optimizations work by using useMemo. So this is one of the most asked interview question. They will ask you about when to use useMemo and when to use useCallback. If you like this video, please subscribe our channel